And we are live. It's the Revved Up 906 podcast, a Detroit Pistons podcast to be exact. And I'm Hudson.
And I'm Ryan.
And before we get into today's recap of Pistons versus the Bulls, I want to let everybody know and remind y'all to like and subscribe. We are bringing you all kinds of Detroit Pistons content. Be out on the lookout for episode number 17. We talk about RJ Hampton, actually, and what we kind of can expect from him, the history of RJ Hampton, what's led him to be here, and how he will kind of mold into the Detroit Pistons. And I know me and Ryan are for sure excited about the possibility of him being able to mix well with the team. Also, make sure to check out episode number 16. We talk about the last 23 games of the season after the All-Star break. So make sure to check that out before Saturday. And don't miss out on that because that's a fun episode. We really deep dive in what to expect from the Detroit Pistons. Tonight's game was a mix of emotions. It was up and down all around. You felt the lowest of lows, the highest of highs. With 9.7 seconds left, the Pistons call a timeout. After the timeout, Jaden Ivey is inbounding the ball, and Bojan Bogdanovic isn't really getting open. None of our guys are really getting open. Bojan had a little opening at the end there, and the Pistons have no more timeouts left, and Jaden Ivey continues to call a timeout. With that happening, the Bulls got a free throw as a penalty for that mistake. And then the Bulls ended up scoring again, and the Pistons, Corey Joseph hit like a banked a 3-pointer with 3 seconds left, but it just wasn't quite enough. And the final score of tonight's game was 117-115 in the Chicago Bulls' favor. You know, I'm not exactly sure where the Bulls are sitting in the East right now. I believe they're in playoff contention. Can you fact check me on that, Ryan? Do you have an idea?
They're 28-34 right now, which is not good.
Oh,
but
no, that's not as good as I thought. They were better
no,
than that.
they've had a down year because they've lost a lot of guys to injury, like Lonzo Ball and all of their key guys at times, and just haven't been able to play consistently good. But they're still a good team.
Yeah. Tonight was 6 straight losses for the Pistons. When watching this game, Ryan, what were some of your first takeaways?
In the beginning, it was rough, and then it got better because Bojan was doing his thing. We make the comment, we want them to be competitive. The last couple of games, we've gotten that. And then tonight, it wasn't looking good. And then it ended up being good. And that's just the Pistons. That's them doing their thing. Granted, we need to fix that for next year, but I'll still compete. I'll still take a 117-115 final score because we competed at the end of the day. Like, we were down bad. And then we came back. And we had 29 points in the fourth quarter alone to their 16. Mm-hmm. That's good. We need to keep doing that. But yeah, if it weren't for Bojan, honestly, this game wouldn't have been a game.
The Pistons at one point, the biggest lead that the Chicago Bulls had was 21 points. With 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, the Pistons pulled it within 4, and then they got it within 2, like late and like with 4 minutes left in the game. And yeah, you were saying Bojan Bogdanovic was definitely a key factor. 34 points, 3 assists, 6 rebounds, which is more than what we typically get. So I always love it when I see him have more than 4 rebounds. That's great. 8 of 12 from the 3-point line, which is just terrific. Yeah. I mean, you can't really ask more from him. And then 11 of 21 from the field on 39 minutes, basically played the whole game. You know, it's really nice to see him have a great game coming off an injury, you know, especially a guy that he's maybe not old, but he's for sure an NBA vet. So, you know, at some point in your career, your body's going to start falling apart. It's just inevitably going to happen. And so a guy in his stage of his career, like Bojan is, it's nice to see him come back and still show that, okay, he's going to deal with some injuries, but he's going to persevere and he's going to have some big time games. Killian Hayes 11 points, which is a little bit more than what he's been giving us lately. So it was nice to kind of see him find a little bit of a groove offensively. 1 of 4 from the 3-point line, 5 of 9 from the field. Jaden Ivey, I loved his play tonight. 18 points, 4 fouls, which is a little more than what we want from him. 4 rebounds, 2 of 4 from the 3-point line, 5 of 9 from the field on 31 minutes. Jaden Ivey was showing that he kind of helped us in our cold streaks and scored in very opportune times when we needed to the most. I have a question I want to ask, because when I was watching in the third quarter, James Wiseman wasn't really able to get a groove together tonight. He had 7 points, 9 rebounds, which I'm happy with 9 rebounds. Him being kind of a go-to scorer, I kind of want him more than 7. But 3 of 5 from the field. He was visibly frustrated at a point during the third quarter. It seemed that he had a couple ticky-tack fouls. He finished with 4. But then there was a couple offensive possessions where Bojan was kind of backing down a guy and was kind of holding onto the ball a while. And then I think Bojan got a foul or something, and James Wiseman looked visibly frustrated, like he wanted a look or something, like he wanted the ball. Did you kind of notice that? Am I looking into it too much? But it kind of popped out to me.
Yeah, I did notice that actually. But it goes back to when your big is open in the paint and he's back down the guy, give him the ball. It's just basketball 101. It applies at any level. High school, college, NBA, you name it. It's a pretty much a rule. It's not written down in books, but it is a rule. Like if your big is open in the paint, back down his guy, give him the ball. Because
Right.
the only thing that can happen out of that is something good. Something bad won't happen. So Wiseman in that situation, yeah, he should be a little bit upset because it's like, dude, I backed down my guy. I was wide open. He didn't give me the ball. But at the same time, you can understand why Bojan did what he did. I mean, he had a very good game tonight. He was hitting every shot, no matter what it seemed like. And so when he thinks he's hot, he's gonna hold on to the ball longer than a lot of these guys would. And that's just Bojan, honestly. And Wiseman just needs to learn how to play with Bojan because he hasn't experienced Bojan when he's hot. He's only experienced Bojan when it's like, oh, he's having a good game, that's it, kind of thing. Because the difference is Wiseman's used to Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, all these guys that are very unselfish players when they're hot.
Right.
Whereas Bojan, uh, he is more selfish when he's hot. He
For
he
sure.
doesn't he doesn't like passing the ball a lot when he's hot. And even when he's not hot, he doesn't like passing the ball a lot because he thinks he's that guy. And he
He
is
is.
at times. He
Yeah.
is. And he's it's fair for him to assume that. But in just that situation alone, Wiseman needs to learn how to play with Bojan. And then also Bojan, give Wiseman the ball. It, he was wide open. Just give him the ball.
Right. Yeah, I would. And, since I believe I think Wiseman's debut, Bojan was there, but that was their first game together. They have had 2 games without playing with each other. I think that Bojan practicing, getting some chemistry with James will get better at giving him the ball. But like you were saying, I don't necessarily want to call Bojan a ball hog, but when he's feeling himself or when he's trying to find a rhythm, either way, he's going to be taking his shots.
Yeah.
We know that each and every night he's going to be getting up around 23 shots a game. And now without Sadiq, he can even take more than what he used to because Sadiq used to take some of his shots. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how that chemistry works. But I know watching it, I was also frustrated with Bojan. I'm like, Bojan, get him the ball, man. Like the fact that Wiseman only put up 5 shots is kind of frustrating to me because I think if you're playing 29 minutes and you only put up 5 shots, that should not happen. And I feel like Dwayne Casey has to address that because we're not giving Wiseman a fair opportunity if we're only letting him put up five shots. I mean, that's what he was doing with Golden State. We want to see Wiseman probably getting like 15 to 20 shots up, and that's just the way it should be with him.
Success for the Pistons and why they'll start winning and playing better is Bojan needs to pass the ball.
Mm-hmm.
It's the bottom line. Because if you look at the stats, besides Bojan, who had 21 shots, Hami was next up at 13. And then it just falls off a cliff. And the next highest is 9, and that's Ivy and Killian. So it's like all these guys are taking very little shots. And Hami's the type of player where it's like, Bojan, I don't care. I'm taking the shot. That's how
Right.
Hami is. He's going to try and get his shot. While Bojan is, no matter what, he's always going to have the ball, and he's always going to want to take the shot. He's going to want the offense to run through him, and that's it. So if he and see, I'm fine with that at times because he's a vet. He knows how to play the game. He put up 34 tonight. I'm cool with that. But at the same time, you're a vet on a very young team. You got to be able to give your teammates opportunities to score. Because if you do that, this game would have been much closer, and you wouldn't have needed Bojan to go off for 34 points tonight. Because you would have had Wiseman at least get 10, and then like Bagley would have at least had 10. It's just Bojan needs to pass the ball more. He needs to be a vet and not the guy.
And the problem with Wiseman too is that centers are a little bit more to the will of the point guards and small forwards. Because yeah, you can get an offensive rebound and then you can get your shots up that way, but really you're not going to get up 15 shots just off of offensive rebounds. You don't get that kind of opportunity. And so Wiseman really relies on these guards to get him the ball. And, you were saying that it's not necessarily written in any books about how to play basketball, but you're taught from a young age that if a guy's trying to back down somebody, you throw it down to the paint and let them go to work. And Wiseman is the perfect example of he's that kind of center. He's got perfect footwork, in my opinion. I love watching him go to town on other big guys. So I'm excited to see, hopefully, a flip that is switched in that a mindset of the team. We know Killian is very good at just passing the ball down low, letting the guy go to work. But it's going to be kind of a learning curve for a vet like Bojan Bogdanovic that he's played with Jalen Duren all season, who isn't really there yet right now. And that's also not really his bread and butter at this point in his career. I think one day he'll get there. Isaiah Stewart's never really been a back down guy. And when he has, he's struggled. He kind of is a guy that takes whatever the offense gives him, where James Wiseman is going to develop his own shots, but he needs to be given the ball. So I hope we kind of start to see that happen in these next 5 games. I don't want to be that guy, but it seemed that every little ticky-tack thing the refs called against the Pistons for fouls, it was just absolutely crazy. There was 24 team fouls for the Detroit Pistons tonight. I think they averaged 23. I think that's what we said a couple weeks ago.
It's 22 and a half.
Yeah, so we were above our average, which the last 2 games we were below our average. That was one of the positives we've talked about the last couple games. But it was just foul after foul after foul. And then there was a couple times where the refs didn't call like a little ticky-tack touch, and Zach LaVine's like complaining. I'm like, come on, dude. Like, you guys get every call. Like let us get away with something. And so it's like once the refs call, like there's those first 4 or 5, they just keep them coming and just let them roll. And I notice it watching every game and, talking about each and every game, writing notes for our recaps, that the games just take so much longer and they're slowed down way more by all these fouls. And I know the Pistons are the worst at fouling pretty much in the league. They're like the bottom 4 teams in the league for like fouls per game. So I know not every team has to deal with this every night, and hopefully one year, hopefully we won't have to deal with it. But it just seemed like they were just calling everything. And DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine and even Patrick Beverly are so good at getting fouls. It is just crazy how those scoring vets know how to get fouls.
Yeah, it's the refs in the NBA are notorious for one thing. Well, two things. Well, a lot of things, but it's they call a ton of fouls and they don't call travels, carries, double dribbles. I mean, if you look at Klay Thompson there recently with the Warriors,
Oh yeah.
that was a double dribble. Or you saw, I love Jordan Poole, go blue baby, but
Yeah.
uh, the carry that was also a travel. It was just the refs don't call those, and they just let them play when that happens. But
Mm-hmm.
then, no matter what, they're blowing their whistle on a foul. Now, let's not talk too much about the fouls because we might get called out, you know. But,
In the
but
comments, yeah.
oh yeah, yeah. But no, 23. It's our average. It is what it is. As long as we're not getting above our average every night, I'm fine. But it again, it goes back to who the Bulls have and who their key guys are. Zach LaVine is an amazing playmaker. He's a great
Yeah.
shot creator, one of the best dunkers in the league by far. He's just a great overall player. He knows how to get fouls his way. Patrick Beverly, an amazing vet. Honestly, one of the best vets you could ever have on your team. And he's one of those guys that works his tail off day in, day out, knows how to get calls. He's just the perfect guy for that. And then like uh DeMar DeRozan, vet, one of the best small forwards, one of the most efficient shooters in the league by far. He
For sure.
obviously he's going to know how to get calls, and even like Nikola Vucevic, one of the best bigs in the league. They have a lot of solid players in Chicago who know how to get calls because they've been doing this forever. And so when you have a ton of vets going against a young team in the Pistons, it's safe to say that a lot of fouls are going to be called, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not more of like the refs just want to blow their whistle. It's also more of a learning curve where the our young Pistons need to realize, hey, don't jump, just stay down on the ground, because
Right.
that's our only way of really fouling in all these games is we always jump, we never stay
Yeah.
down, we always go up, and it's like just stay down. It's not hard. It's not
Right.
rocket science, but it, it's just a young team. And once we get past this next year or 2 years from now, we'll be fine because we'll know not to jump. But at the end of the day, it's a normal NBA game. You're gonna have a ton of fouls called, and that's about it.
Every recap, we got to talk about the hard things to talk about, the negative stuff. When you have losses, you got to talk about the elephant in the room. But I have some positives. The Pistons had 41 points off the bench tonight. That is great to see. For perspective, the Bulls had only 30 points off the bench. So our bench outscored the Bulls by 11 points. Love to see that. Most notably, our scores off the bench were, Marvin Bagley with 8, Hamidou Diallo with 19. Hamidou Diallo is just the man. I am such a big fan of Hamidou. And then we saw Alec Burks with 11, Corey Joseph with 3. He hit that with like about 3 seconds left, so nothing too crazy. But so that's definitely a positive, is that our bench can compete with a lot of teams' benches. And with Killian coming off the bench and typically Isaiah Livers, our bench only has that much more firepower. Also, we matched the Chicago Bulls with rebounds per game, with the rebounds tonight, with 40 total for both teams. That's another great takeaway. And then also we shot 50% from the field. You love to hover around that 50%.
Yep.
And then from the 3-point line, we shot 40%, which is not a jaw dropper, but to be in the 40s at the 3-point line is, hey, I'll take that.
Yeah. especially with a great young team like this.
Yep.
Uh, we don't have a ton of shooters on our team. It's really only Bojan. It's really only Bojan and Alec
Yeah.
Burks.
That's consistent.
Yeah, that's consistent. I mean, when Cade's healthy and back, he's the third out of that three. But uh, I mean, not saying that Killian can't shoot the three or Ivy can't shoot the three or Wiseman can't shoot the three. It's just they're not as consistent, and that's
Yeah.
something they need to work on. But
Yep.
but Bojan and Alec Burks for sure are shooters, and so when we're having Bojan have 8 threes, my goodness, I'll take that.
Yeah, absolutely. 8 threes on a game is great. And then from the free throw line, we've talked about a lot in recaps our struggles at the free throw line, but we shot 82%.
Yep.
And the Bulls only shot 74%. So that's another point I wanted to make is that the Bulls got a lot of calls, but they only shot 74% from the free throw line, which just isn't really cutting it when you're shooting that many.
Yeah.
You know, you want to be where the Pistons were at with 82 to like the high 80s for sure. Earlier today, I did an over-under post on Instagram, and it was for Marvin Bagley to have over 20 points or under 20 points. And the following followers got it correct with under 20. He finished with 8. So Fawcett Fitness 1996, Micah 3198, Arel _ RTZ, and CPT _ Canuck _ guessed it correctly. So thank you guys for commenting. We appreciate your support, and we look to hear from you guys soon, and we hope you appreciate us shouting you out. And thank you for just putting us out there and being such great supporters. Before we wrap up today's Revved Up recap of Pistons versus Bulls, any last takeaways from you, Ryan?
Even though Marvin Bagley only had 8 points and 9 rebounds, he still did his thing, and you can appreciate that.
Yep.
He doesn't need to have 20 and 10 plus games, 3 games in a row. I mean, I'd love to see that, but he doesn't need to do that. He just needs to go out there, play good minutes, and do his thing, and we'll be fine.
Yeah. I like Marvin Bagley's play, man. I just love watching him play. Him and James Wiseman are the player that like I wish I was in real life. Like I'm only 5'8". Like on a good day with like high top shoes, I might be like 5'9.5", maybe. So it's like Marvin Bagley and James Wiseman are like the guy like I wish I was, like as far as basketball play style, just backing down dudes, banging bodies in the paint, grabbing rebounds. So I personally just love watching them play and just big time fans. I think like Marvin Bagley, Hamidou Diallo are like with Cade Cunningham out, and like Jaden Ivey are probably like my favorite players. Actually, I kind of want to know, you know, it kind of fluctuates, you know, when you cover a team, it kind of fluctuates who your favorite players are depending on the week, really. Right now, who's your favorite, like who's your top 3 Pistons favorite players right now?
Oof.
Active.
Kind of bold. James Wiseman,
Okay.
Marvin Bagley,
Okay.
and Jaden Ivey.
Okay. Is that in that order from 1 to 3?
Yeah.
Okay. In that order. I like it.
What about you? What about you?
Yeah, so like Hamidou Diallo with Cade Cunningham out and taking him out of the equation, Hamidou Diallo is probably my number 1 spot right now. He has just been playing so good. He had like 19 points tonight, 15 the night before, 17 the night before that. Like he has just been a hot commodity for the Detroit Pistons. And without him coming off the bench and having that burst of energy, this game isn't as close as it was tonight. So Hamidou Diallo is for sure my number 1 guy right now. I'd probably say Jaden Ivey. Like I feel like probably Jaden Ivey and then Marvin Bagley, just because Jalen Duren's out. We're both big Jalen Duren guys, but with him out, I feel like he can't be the top of the list right now.
Yeah,
so
because I would throw in Duren on my list, but he hasn't been healthy, so I can't say that currently. But
right. So if he like had a big game tonight, I'd be like, oh, I'm a Jalen Duren guy because you know we're big fans of Jalen. But Yeah, right now, dude, Hamidou has just been on the top of my list because he was a guy when he. Sorry, I'm a little talkative tonight.
Oh, you're good.
But
You're good.
when he came from OKC, I was so excited because I knew he was a project, and I didn't know if he was going to succeed, but I was always cheering him on. And like he's coming along and like really proving he's a legit NBA player. So I'm like super proud of him for doing that because like
Yep.
that's just so cool. Like the fact that he got traded a couple times early in his career and then boom, he comes to Detroit. It takes a while, but he steps up. I just love that. That's just so cool. And the fact that the Pistons organization developed him, like I really like
Yeah.
that too, that he's succeeded when coming to Detroit. Because we've seen so many people come to Detroit and then fail.
Yeah.
Like we've seen that a lot. So it's really nice to see a success story kind of.
That's what we're hoping with RJ Hampton.
Right, exactly. And if RJ Hampton, he was a little quiet tonight, only 7 minutes, so it's hard to judge 7 minutes. They were pretty much garbage time. But so it's hard to judge. But yeah, that's what I'm hoping RJ Hampton is because and we'll get into it in episode 17.
Yep.
Y'all better be ready for it because we're big RJ Hampton guys. We hope he pans out, but time will tell. Time will tell. Now, you guys just watched our Revved Up recap. You probably saw Ryan wearing a Revved Up hat, and you might be wondering, "Ooh, that's kind of slick. I want something like that." Well, you can find the link to that in the description below and in our YouTube bio because we collabed with Grind Clothing Co. You can't get that exact colorway because that's strictly for us.
Oh, yeah.
But we might do a specialty order if you want it. We have a version of that hat in that link, and you can go check that out because y'all need to start repping Revved Up 906. We will see you guys in the next Revved Up recap. Peace.